What's the deal? Check, check, check. Check, check. Oh shoot. I gotta get my laptop. Yo, what's up, bro? I pray you doing good. Um, hold up. That one dude, you are not loading up, buddy. I don't know what's going on there. I'm gonna try to do a quick live today. I'm gonna try to do like an hour 15.
Hey, what's
Hello?
up, man? What's up?
What's up? How you doing?
Yeah, I've had a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand why is it so hard for a good portion of professing Christians on this app to acknowledge that Mary is the mother of God? Because I would ask, is Mary the mother of God? Because I just feel like talking and it's like, oh, let's have a conversation. Then they
Mm-hmm.
say Mary's the mother of Jesus.
Mm. Yes, yeah, I don't. Well, for a lot of people, they think that it means that she's birthing the divinity, and they probably just don't understand like the metaphysics behind it, the and the problem of Nestorianism, and how you saying that Mary is only the mother of like the human or I don't know,
She's
Christ.
she's the mother of the flesh.
Yeah, yeah, like you end up falling into problems there, but I just don't think that they understand. So we probably just have to explain it because I've seen a couple times where people explain it and then they're like, "Oh, well, if that's what you mean, then yeah." Because it
Right.
becomes like very obvious even through scripture, like when it says that God died on the cross, that's the same person that Mary birthed, bro. So you can't you can't just try to separate them into another person or something like that.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
It it's almost as if we have teachings of that doctrine,
it would
and
seem
and
as
it's
such. It would be nice if there was like full councils on it. That would be tight.
and also like a lot of people in the early church testifying
Yeah.
such.
If only, right? If we only had that, it would be so helpful.
We would all be golden.
Right. All right, man. God bless you, man.
Yeah, and I have one last question.
What's up?
Is is the is this the pro is this a good way to explain the Trinity? Is like saying the Father is the sole cause, the arche, the fountainhead, and the front, And the Son and Holy Spirit derive their hypostases from the Father, the Son being eternally begotten, and the Holy Spirit eternally proceeding from the Father alone in terms of hypostatic origin.
Yeah, that's how the Eastern Orthodox would articulate it.
And also, God's essence is distinct from his energies.
I'm looking into that right now. I gotta understand the terminology. So I wouldn't
Okay.
be the best person to ask, because I'm reading into it and I want to make sure that I understand what they're saying, when they say something like that. So I was reading on
All
that
right.
today. So
All right. Well, you have a blessed day.
you too, man. God bless you. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, I'm good too.
So I think today I only have like one general question
Okay.
because I'm like thinking of like what do I want to ask,
Mm-hmm.
and this is basically like my question. So from all the like sources of Jesus, for example, we have the letters of Paul, we have like the Gospel of John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why should we trust all those sources when there's a much earlier source, which is the Gospel of Q? And the Gospel of Q doesn't have the narrative of, for example, the crucifixion. It's like more in alignment with the like practices and like teachings of Jesus in Islam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there isn't a document called Q. So Q is what's called a hypothetical document. So what they do is pretty much they take what's similar in the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke, and then they put that together and they form some type of hypothetical document, and they say maybe there's some document like this out there where they're both using to bring their gospels to life. So Q is not an actual document or actual thing. There's no manuscripts of Q or anything like that.
Okay, first of all, two things. First of all the people in the comments saying, "Did he say the Gospel of Q?" I mean, this is like scholars talk about this all the time. I don't know, like you're
Yeah, it's
pretending
just
like I cited the Gospel of Barnabas.
no,
Like it's not.
no, yeah, but it's a hypothetical document. It's not. There's no like actual document. Nothing that even dates nowhere close. Like this is something that a theory that somebody came up with rather recently. But you don't have,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. So I have two problems with like the idea only because this is a theory. Like we can't use this as an argument. Like first of all, obviously in a simplified form, Luke and Matthew copy Mark in most like they have contain like 93% of Mark, and like the rest of what they have is either like their own comments, right? Or they copy something else, correct? Like that's hypothetically. And that thing which that other thing which they copy is what they call the Gospel of Q. And so basically, you say it's hypothetical, like there's no manuscript evidence, but we didn't have any manuscript evidence till like of like the Gospel of Thomas, for example, till the what's it called, the Nag Hammadi collection. Like we didn't
Hmm.
have any manuscripts of the Gospel of Thomas till like the 19th century. So using that argument, someone could also say, well, we don't have any manuscripts of the Gospel of Thomas, so it can't have existed. Like someone could have made that argument, but like the Gospel of Q,
Which Gospel of
most
Thomas are you talking about? The infancy Gospel of Thomas?
no, not the infancy one. Well, hold on, let me check. I'm not saying that the Gospel of Thomas is reliable. I'm just using it as an example, right?
Okay. Yeah, I'm just wondering which gospel, like, which one you're talking about.
Followed by the thing that when you say, okay, we don't have any manuscripts of it, that's not only an argument from silence, but yeah, here the Gospel of Thomas, as part of the Nag Hammadi library, was discovered in 1945. So if we say, okay, the Gospel of Q is hypothetical, sure, it's like a hypothesis, just like the Big Bang or like many things are hypotheticals. but just because they're hypotheticals doesn't mean we're not certain of them. Like most scholars are just certain there's this source called the Gospel of Q.
Yeah, no. So we have the Nag Hammadi discovery of the Gospel of Thomas. That's like the one complete copy of the Gospel of Thomas that we have, right? Which dates to about the 2nd century. But we have fragments that date before that. So there's still manuscript evidence that goes to point to, oh, the Gospel of Thomas is something that existed from the 2nd century on. That's that's not the problem. In regards to the Q source, there's there's absolutely, not only is there no textual evidence, but it's literally just a theory that someone came up with. There's no reason for us to believe that there is this actual document. They say that, oh, they're Luke and Matthew are similar, or they believe that they're copying Mark, for example, right? But it completely
Mhm.
throws out the point that they're telling the same story. It would be like me being in an interrogation room and my fiance and my brother, and we're telling the same story, and then people come thousands of years later and say, oh, they must have copied each other because look at their similarities. But they're telling the same story. Like, they're Matthew's an eyewitness. mark is uh Mark is the gospel of Peter, who's an eyewitness. Luke literally says that he's getting his story from the eyewitnesses. Why wouldn't the stories be similar? It doesn't make any sense. Um, so there's just no reason for us to
So the
believe.
reason
But
why,
even so, because I know that you're Muslim. So say for instance, if we could take some of the hypothetical Q documents that they have, you would still disagree with what the Q document says as a Muslim.
so okay, so I know that there are some verses, right, which can be controversial. Obviously, I haven't like read the gospel. I've like read the Gospel of Q basically because I read Matthew and Luke, but like I haven't read it in one piece.
Hmm.
But here's what I'm saying, right?
Hmm.
When, for example, scholars date Mark earlier than Matthew and Luke, right? Because first of all, Mark, do you believe Mark is an eyewitness?
No, Mark is the interpreter of Peter. So Peter is the eyewitness. Mark is the
Right,
one who's giving us Peter's testimony, pretty much.
exactly. So if you're making the argument, okay, like the Synoptics or even like the Gospel of John is like eyewitness, except Luke, obviously. Why in the world would Matthew, an eyewitness, copy from Mark, who isn't an eyewitness, who copies from Peter? Like, and
Who
added to
copies
that
from?
fact, why would Matthew? No, look, Luke. Let's hypothetically say that, like, according to many scholars, Luke is a bit earlier than Matthew, right? But let's think about this. Jesus is this figure, right? Who's
Mhm.
like an important figure, and the like through time, people want to learn more about him. It wouldn't make sense for someone to like take Matthew, take like the first 14 chapters or whatever, and just copy that and make a smaller gospel. Obviously, with time, you want more information. So it's logical that the Gospel of Mark came first. And then when you look at Matthew
That's
and
not
Luke are
true.
like
That's
10,
not.
20 years old.
So you see how you're just jumping. So the way in which a lot of these scholars like jump to certain conclusions, I think if you look into them, you will see that they're not really based on solid ground. Like, for example, the dating of the Gospels, right? A lot of the dating of the Gospels is like based off the presupposition that prophecy is impossible. So they say because Jesus predicts the destruction of the second temple, and obviously he gets that right in the Gospels, it has to be written after the destruction of the second temple because prophecy is impossible. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
I
know
don't.
that dating method is like very stupid.
Yeah, but that's what
Like,
a lot of
I agree.
scholars. That's what a lot of scholars agree with because obviously you can't definitively prove that prophecy is possible. So you would say, oh, if he got something in such great detail early on, either you say that prophecy is possible, which you're not going to do as a scholar, or you go with the later dating, which is what they do. They go with the later dating. So in regards to Matthew and this development of doctrine, which a lot of people like to purport on the gospel. So they say, oh, since Mark is shorter, therefore we'll say that Mark is earlier. Why would I need to accept that? Now, I don't have a problem with saying that Mark is the first gospel, but why would I need to
Hmm.
believe that, especially if I have like early church tradition and people who are directly connected to these people saying that like Matthew was the first one that was written?
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense. Like, okay, let's take the paradigm that Matthew wrote his gospel first, then Mark, then Luke, right? Let's just say,
Okay.
first of all, why would there be this long gospel? Matthew, it's the longest gospel out of the four. Then why would Luke shorten it, like make his own comments about it, and basically copy from not only like Mark himself? And the thing is, the
Yeah.
reason why
So,
also people think
so
that
here,
Mark came
hold on,
first is
hold on.
because Luke.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
with Matthew, I think it's important to know who these people are, because when you have an idea as to who the authors are, then you and their audience, then you understand why they write the way in which they write. So Matthew is a tax collector and a Jew. So Matthew is going
Yeah.
very in very extensive detail as to how this person, namely Jesus, is the Messiah that fulfills the scriptures. Matthew and Luke are actually written very differently. Luke is a doctor who is a Gentile, who is giving a detailed account that he compiles together, which, I mean, I'm reading through Luke right now from beginning to end, right? Luke differs a lot
Hmm.
from Matthew, especially in the content. Luke is giving a very special emphasis on the Gentiles and how Christ is not just the savior for the Jews, but is also the savior for the Gentiles.
Okay.
Mark, the interpreter of Peter, his thing is showing the power of Christ and how he has power over demonic forces. So when you read the first couple chapters of Mark, you see Mark laying down this groundwork of how Jesus is doing all these things to the demonic forces, right? So when you understand their goal and their gospel, then you understand as to why one is longer, one is shorter, one goes into more detail than the other on very specific things. Matthew is going to go into a lot of Old Testament scripture where Luke isn't going to do all of that. He'll reference a couple of prophecies, right? But he's not going into the immense detail into the Old Testament that Matthew, the Jew, is who's writing to Jews.
Yeah. So okay, do you believe Matthew copied from Mark?
I don't think I have to believe that. It doesn't matter, but
Okay.
I don't think I have to believe that.
Look, obviously for you it doesn't matter. Like, if you would ask me a question, I could also say like, why would it matter? Like, I could just live my own life, have my own faith. But that's like not the
No,
point. The
no,
point
I'm
of the
saying
question is
I'm saying
not if you
even
have to, like if you do.
I haven't seen a real reason as to why I would need to hold to that. I just haven't seen a convincing enough reason as to like, yeah, Matthew definitely copies from Mark. Like I haven't seen that.
But look, here's the thing. You make your like position on this very ambiguous, and then when I make like the argument, okay, Mark came first, and Matthew basically and Luke copy from Mark, then you like make this argument. Well, I don't have to take that position.
I'm no,
Well,
I'm
then you
saying
need to
okay,
clarify your position
yeah,
to like
my
make it.
position, I'm saying that church tradition says that Matthew wrote his gospel first. So why? I'm asking you, why would I need to accept? What's the evidence that I need to accept that Mark is written first if church tradition says that Matthew was written first? Now, I don't have a problem with stating that Mark is written first. I don't. Like if the evidence points to that, it doesn't change anything about the position. I'm saying that I haven't seen the evidence that forces me to accept that Mark is written first and Matthew and Luke copy Mark. What's that evidence?
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for Mark to basically copy Luke, right? Because the like Luke is more accurate to
Why
Mark
why
in
do they
like the
need to
few
I don't
gospels.
why do I need to why do they need to copy one another?
Well, because they write the same things. Basically, like if you look into the statistics, the Greek of Mark is like found 93% in Luke. So it's basically
They're
like
speaking the same
plagiarism.
they're speaking the same language. I think a lot of it is very speculative and it's not actually it doesn't seem like strong evidence to me. They're
Okay,
literally
but you and
speaking.
I, for example,
Mark is somebody that's fluent in the language of Greek. So is Luke. Luke is a doctor. He's a Greek doctor. Mark's whole
I
purpose,
know.
Mark's whole purpose was translating Peter for specific crowds, right? So I don't
Okay,
understand why it would be a problem that their language looks similar if they're speaking the same language.
no, 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 no. Not the language. I'm not talking about the language. Okay, for example, you and I speak English. My English is probably way worse, but you're fluent in English at least. If someone like assigned to us a task, okay, make an autobiography of Captain Crunch, okay? If we like wrote about him, it would not like no one would think in their right mind that if we copy the same story, and not only the same story but literally the same words, like 93% of the same words, just sometimes in different orderings and sometimes like variations, no one would think, well, they're talking about the same person, therefore it's not like copying. Well, no, if it's genuinely like the same in some sense, then obviously we're
Yeah,
copying.
but
Like
they're not just
either I'm
telling a
copying you.
no, but they're not just telling a vague story. They're quoting the speeches that are given by Christ, right? So you've yet to provide the evidence that makes me accept. But what's the point? Like, get to the crux of your argument. So you came up
Yeah,
here
yeah,
because
my
I only
argument.
have I only have a couple more minutes. So you came up here. You
Oh
said
my God.
why should we accept the letters of Paul or the Gospels if we have the Q source? And the Q source doesn't actually exist. So what's the actual argument?
Uh, okay, you know what? I I don't think currently I have any evidence. So if you want to leave it at that, we can.
I mean, we can because there's just no
I mean,
reason.
like, there's no point of me making points and talking if I don't have enough knowledge. That's just me being a fool. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean I appreciate that, but I'm saying that in regards to the best evidence that we have in regards to the historical Jesus isn't going to come from this hypothetical Q source, but it's going to come from the actual documents, namely Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the epistles of Paul, and then the writings of the historians that come after, Tacitus, Josephus, even the people who probably met Jesus as well, who are in church tradition. Um, so
well, Josephus is probably like little chance that it's authentic, but like that's another discussion, man.
no,
I don't see any reason to go.
there's new evidence that comes out that pretty much clarifies as to what Josephus is writing. I could pull that up for you if you want, but Josephus very clearly says that Jesus was crucified.
The thing is, the reason why scholars don't take this as an actual like writing is, first of all, the first manuscript we have of this is like what dated like over the 10th century. Second of all, Origen, the church father, and the church father Jerome talk about Josephus. And Origen himself, when trying to prove Jesus existed, appeals to Josephus. But then, instead of appealing to the saying of Josephus, he appeals to another saying where it just says Jesus, the brother of James. If this was already in Josephus's writings, why would Origen and Jerome, early church fathers, not quote it when trying to prove Jesus existed?
Yeah,
It makes like absolutely no sense.
they're not just proving that Jesus existed though. If you look at the people who they're refuting that Jesus had an actual body. So they're going to show that if Jesus obviously had a brother, then obviously Jesus had a physical body. He was actually here, right? He wasn't just a figment of people's imagination, or a spirit, which is the people that they weren't saying that Jesus never existed, but Jesus didn't come in bodily form was what they were arguing. So uh,
Yeah, I agree with the
what
second.
Josephus, yeah, so what Josephus is saying um, in the quote that a lot of people like to bring up isn't going to really do much for their argument, because what I believe what Josephus says is like Jesus, if you were to call him a man, right? Why would I bring that up when I'm trying to prove that this dude actually isn't a spirit? I'm not gonna
Well,
bring
no,
that
the
up for
thing
my
is that
purposes.
even that statement doesn't make any sense in like its historical context. Why would Josephus, who's a devout Jew, make the statement about a Messiah who is like considered in the first century as like this cult group? Why would this devout Jew suddenly out of nowhere say, okay, this man was maybe not even a man, like probably an angel or a god or whatever? Like it doesn't make any sense. And
What?
that Origin and Josephus, like that Origin and
No,
Jerome
so
is not
yeah,
quoting that
so
passage also.
there's new evidence that's put forth by historian. He's really into Josephus and all his writings. His name is Thomas Schmidt. Schmidt. You could
Hold
go
on,
to
let me write his name down.
yeah
Thomas
Schmidt.
Thomas Smith.
SCHMIDT.
SCHMITD.
DT.
Okay,
Yeah, and he has a book.
TT.
He has a book
Oh, I
called
think the guy's German.
yeah. He has a book called Josephus and Jesus, where he goes through all
Mm.
of Josephus's writings and he reconstructs the passage that is talked about in regards to Jesus, and he re-renders it in what is the most probable reading and correct reading of what Josephus says. Um,
Mm.
and he explains as to like why Origin and them wouldn't like use this quote, but obviously like the quote existed. So what
At
he
least some
says is
variation of it, probably.
yeah, so that's his whole thing is he re-renders it using the Greek that or the language that Josephus uses because like there's small different interpretations in regards to the translations as to what people believe that Josephus was trying to say. So he actually uses all of Josephus's writings, puts it in context, and then renders it correctly. Um, so it says that like, and he bought over many among the Jews. Oh, and at this time there was a certain Jesus, a wise man, if indeed one ought to call him a man, for he was a doer of incredible deeds, a teacher of men who received truisms with pleasure, and he bought over many from among the Jews, many from among the Greeks. He was thought to be the Christ. And when Pilate had condemned him to the cross at the accusation of the first men among those who were first devoted, who at first were devoted to him, did not cease to be so. For on the third day it seemed to them that he was alive again, given the divine prophets had spoken of such things, thousands of wonderful things. And now, up until now, they are called the Christians, who were named from him and has not disappeared. And Josephus' whole goal in that, well, he goes into that. If you want to read the book, you could read the book. But yeah, so that's the like correct
How big is
rendering
it?
into it.
Like, how big is the book?
How big is the book? Like how many pages?
Yeah, because if it has like 500 pages, I'm not gonna read that. But like, if it's 50 or like 70 pages, sure.
Uh, Here, let me see. Um,
By the way, before I go, can I make like ask a small question? It's not like a huge question.
yeah, you could ask a question.
So, look, this is going to sound like very like a low tier question or like argument,
Mm-hmm.
but you know how like in John, the book of John, chapter 14, verse 6, like a lot of Muslims make the argument, well, that's Muhammad,
Oh,
right?
this is a book. It's
Hold on.
337 pages, but you don't have to read everything. You just go
Damn.
to yeah, you'll just go to like what's important. Um,
Damn.
but like he goes into a lot of stuff. So this was the original, like his original book. I don't want to say original, but like he was intending to just write part one, which is like the first 100 pages, which is just going into the Greek, right? Um, that was the original goal, and then there was like he wanted to answer the question, how would Josephus know these things about Christ? And then that turns into like a whole nother 100 pages, pretty much 200 pages, damn near. So that's
How
why
the heck do you write like? How the heck do you write books on like based on two sentences?
no. So
That's great.
The first part, the authenticity of the Testimonium Flavianum, this is page 13 to 108. So that's not that long. It's less than 100 pages, right? So that's what you would probably be more interested in. Now, in understanding how Josephus knows these things about Christ and the Christian movement and everything like that, he goes into all the people around Josephus who he had direct access to and how he knows these things. Josephus had direct access to people who actually witnessed Christ, helped condemn Christ to death, all of those things. Like, he has direct, like, his right hand man was one of the people. So this is why, like, in his quote, when he's talking about like of first witnesses and stuff like that, he's getting this information from people who have direct information, who are against Christ. Yeah. But they are witnesses of Christ. They saw him. This is how he knows these things. So that's what he ends up writing in part 2. You, since you're wondering about the testimony of Flavianum, will be focused on part 1.
Yeah. So,
And you could get this for free.
I
You could get this PDF for free.
really
Yeah. So if
cool.
you come to his website, Josephus and Jesus, you could go to purchase and free download, and then you could just click here for the free download.
Oh, I'm glad because some guy in the comments said it's $130.
Yeah, so yeah, so that's why they offer it for free as well. So
Damn, that's a W. But the last question before I go, because like you don't have a lot of time today, right? So again, this might sound like a low tier argument, but hear me out. Okay,
mhm.
hear me out. So obviously, you as a Christian would make the argument that the book of John, chapter 14, verse 6, is not about Muhammad, right? And I've
John
seen
14:6. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
know the explanation Christians give. It's basically like, okay, look at the context, and I agree. Like the context is clear that it's the Holy Spirit. Like I wouldn't argue that, right?
Okay.
But I would make the argument that context, when it comes to prophecy, is not important, especially not in the New Testament. And I'll give you an example. For example, in the book of Hosea, chapter 11, verse 1, it says, "Out of Egypt I called my son."
Mhm.
And the book of Matthew, chapter 2, verse 15, quotes it and says that this prophecy has been fulfilled after Jesus returned from Egypt, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at the context, like not even the context, like literally the next verse, which is the book of Hosea, chapter 11, verse 2, it
Mhm.
says, "But they kept worshiping the devil and kept giving sacrifices."
Yeah.
So obviously, the author of Matthew is aware of this, right? And I don't blame him. I'm not saying what he did is wrong.
Yeah.
But my problem is when even the author of Matthew didn't have a problem with context in his like prophecies being fulfilled. Why do Christians, when it comes to like John 14:6, do they appeal to context, even though that's
Well,
obviously not?
Well, it's more than that. So in regards to the ways in which this is another example, but in regards to the ways in which Jews understood prophecy, especially in the first century, there's predictive prophecy as to this thing is only going to take place in the future, and then there's typological prophecies. So Matthew is showing how Christ fulfills this typology or this typological prophecy of the same way that God saved his people out of Egypt is the same way in which he's doing in regards to the Messiah. Like he's saving us. So it's not saying that, oh, this is only going to happen in the future and this can only be applied to the Messiah. In the context of Hosea chapter 11, it is talking about Israel, but in the same way that God acted in the past, look at how he's acting again through his Messiah. And that's the way in which Jews understood or would articulate different types of prophecies, either predictive prophecies or typological prophecies. Now, in regards to the book of John, chapter 14, it's not just Christians that are afraid of or focused on context, but also the Muslims. Because if you're going to say that this is about Muhammad, you have to affirm the things that are said about this helper that is to come, which Muslims are not able to affirm. So,
Look, well, I don't understand. When it comes to Matthew making this prophecy, it's typology and not every attribute or like aspect of this of this person Israel doesn't need to apply.
no,
But when
I'm
it
saying
says,
that
for
it's
example,
in
he will
line.
be in you.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
saying that it's in line with the ways in which Jews understood prophecy. So what Matthew is saying is not this, oh, this thing is only going to happen in the future, but he's going to show that the way that God acted and saved the people back then is in like manner, he is doing it now through the Messiah. That's what Matthew is going to show. So that isn't a predictive prophecy. Hosea 11 is not a predictive prophecy.
Yeah.
Matthew is literally only showing that, oh, God acted this way in the Old Testament. It's not something new that God is doing, but the same way he saved us, Jesus Christ.
Hold on. Delete that comment. Delete that comment. What
Yeah,
the
yeah,
heck?
yeah,
What the fuck?
yeah. Um, thank you, Cam.
Yeah, that just threw us
Thank you,
both off.
Sophia. Sophia, 5 minutes is crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. You think it's gonna get better? You think he go? You think he go get his act together and come back 5 minutes ready to go?
That'll be good.
Nah, but yeah. So in regards to John chapter 14, this is a predictive prophecy. And
In
then
the sense that it gives attributes to this future, like, prophetic figure.
yeah,
Okay.
and there's specific attributes about this future prophetic figure that Muslims would have to accept in order to say that it is Muhammad as well, which just wouldn't make any sense, right? For like, my fault, Matthew 14, 16, right? I will ask the Father and he will give you another helper to be with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. But you know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. Can you say that about
Yeah.
Muhammad?
Obviously not, but again, I don't see a reason why you say it's typology when it comes to Matthew, and why could I not say, like, this is typology when it comes to this? Because you're saying, look, the thing
what's the
is,
type?
yeah, 11.
What's the type? And you're saying that this is literally Muhammad, right?
No, I'm saying this could be a future,
And
like,
then
this could be
on top of that, he literally clarifies as to who he's talking about, right? When he says it in verse 26.
Okay, you know what's the issue with this? What you just, like, your response? Hosea 11, like, if you look from a Jewish commentator, like, perspective, let's say before even Jesus existed, like, you won't see a prophecy. It's not a prophecy. It just says, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Like, I don't see any potentiality in prophecy itself there, right? But Matthew makes it a prophecy, and obviously this prophet, like
Here, what
this.
did I say that prophecy means in regards to Matthew? Like, what's the different ways in which prophecy is understood in the ancient Jewish context?
Yeah, you said that there's this, like, how can I explain it? You said there's a standard of prophecy, like in the ancient Jewish culture, and that not every aspect, like, would need to apply, but only, like,
No.
the.
So I was saying that there's a difference between predictive prophecies and typological prophecies, right? So
Oh,
yeah, so in
okay.
you have predictive prophecies of the Messiah. The Messiah is going to come. He's going to be born of a virgin, right? That's not a typological prophecy. This is something that God is going to do, so we can look for this sign. God is giving us a sign, right? Oh, the Messiah is going to be born of a virgin. The Messiah is going to be pierced in his hands and his feet. He's going to be sold for 30 pieces of silver, right? These are things that are said of the Messiah, which are predictive prophecies that do come to pass. We see that in the Jewish Old Testament, right? And then we also see the ways in which prophecies are prescribed is, the things that God did in the past and he's doing it now. They also call those prophecies. Now, this isn't like something that was predicted by a prophet that's going to happen in the future, but it's just a revelation to show that God is still acting within creation. And we can see that it's God acting within creation because of the ways in which he acted in the past. For example, Moses splits the Red Sea. Now, he confirms this and fulfills this prophecy of a prophet coming after him when Joshua splits the sea. And then Elijah splits the sea. And Elisha splits the sea, because this is a sign that God's prophet has been chosen among the people. So you can say that prophecy has been fulfilled, but there's no prophecy that or a lot of the prophets that come after Moses are also going to split the sea. No, this is
Okay,
just a
okay,
sign.
I understand it.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, that makes sense. Like prophet, like you're basically trying to say, for example, the book of Revelation, it makes a prophecy, like a clear prophecy of what will happen, right? But for example, like Hosea, since if you look at it, like immediately you won't see a prophecy. It's like typology, like
yeah,
it's copying. I get it, man.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Uh,
I gotta go now. It was nice talking to you, bro.
it's always good talking to you, man. God bless you.
God, oh, hold on, hold on. A guy in the comments called Raven. He said he's a Buddhist. Buddhist. Like, why don't you use the cosmological argument on him? That would be fire.
Hey, we'll see. I got 4 people in the guest request, and I got like 20 minutes, bro. So we'll see. I just enjoyed talking to you. So
What do you
God bless
mean
you,
like
man.
20 minutes? What are you
God
talking
bless
about?
you too, man.
Uh,
You all have a great day.
you too, man. Hey, you heard me, man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get through these guests as quick as possible. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, bro?
What's up?
How you doing today, man?
I'm good. Uh, why aren't you Christian?
I don't know what I am, man.
All right. Hello.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Not much. What's going on?
Not much. So I am a Christian, but I just have a couple questions on how you like can defend the faith regarding how can I put it? Because I mean, a lot of people they use like John 14, like he was using a little while ago, as a reference to kind of prove that Jesus isn't God. I came in kind of late in the conversation, so how do you go about that yourself?
That they try to use John 14 to prove that Jesus is not God.
Yeah, yeah. So like no one comes to the Father except through me. Like how can Jesus be the Father as well as this as well as God, right?
Well,
Um,
Jesus isn't the Father.
right. Yeah. So
Okay.
but I'm a Trinitarianist. So essentially,
Okay.
regarding the Trinity, how can Jesus be God as well as God the Father, as God the Son? You know, that's what they use. So how would you go about that there?
Okay. Well, Jesus is God by nature. He is not the Father by person, right? He is not the person of the Father. He is only the person of the Son.
Mhm.
So when you go to before you get to John 14, you got to get past John chapter 1, right? When you go to
Right, for
John
sure.
chapter 1, and it says in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. You see this personal distinction between the
Hmm.
Father and the Son, but this unity in essence in regards to the word being God. So we don't believe that Jesus is the Father. So when it says that no one could come to the Father, that's a distinct person, but it's not a division in the essence. Um, and then you could just go to all the scriptures that just says that Jesus is God.
Right.
Um,
Like I mean, even in like I think Jesus does refer like a lot of himself to like I am. That's mentioned like Exodus 3.
yeah,
So essentially, like that. But I was having
yeah. I mean, like
a small
I
discussion.
think this is because this is very important because our salvation hinges on it. You go to
Mhm.
like Acts 20:28. Says,
Right.
pay careful attention to yourself and all the flock which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers to care for the church of God, which he obtained with his own blood.
Mm, beautiful.
So it's just
Yeah.
like you this is gonna be hard to get around, but it's very important because the reason as to why our sins are atoned for is because God, the eternal, the everlasting, infinite in dignity, is able to pay for past, present, and future sins. A created being is not going to be able to do such a thing.
Right. And I was having a discussion recently with uh, she claims that she's a Christian, but she's very non-Trinitarianist. She was saying something about First Peter was saying something that contradicts Jesus being God. Um, I
First
can't remember.
Peter.
I think something about First Peter. That's what she had posted on her live. Um, Yeah, halal Christian. That's who it is. Dawn. That's who it is.
I haven't talked to her. I hear a lot of people talk about her, but I personally, I haven't talked to her. But I don't know what
Yeah.
the what's the argument for that.
Basically saying she had like a very, I would say like an Arianist view or even a modalist view of what the Trinity actually is. And she claims to be a Christian, but she had like a lot of Muslim um, comments, I guess you can say. So I'm not sure exactly where she lies in this as a Christian, but she used First Peter, I think, as a contradiction to Jesus being God, God the Son, essentially, and
I
so.
would need to see the argument so I could
Oh, Second
refute it.
Peter 1:1. Somebody put that's Chris. Second Peter
Well,
1:1.
Second Peter 1:1 says that Jesus is God, so
Okay.
I don't. So yeah, Second Peter 1:1 says, "To those who have obtained a faith of equal standing with ours by our righteousness of our God and Savior Jesus Christ."
Okay, gosh, so it wasn't that one. It's probably somewhere in First Peter. But yeah, I just wanted to get your
Yeah,
your input.
I would need to, if you get the argument, bring the argument, and then we could figure out what's the best way to go about it.
All right, cool, for sure.
All right, God bless.
God bless.
Hello,
What's up, man?
what's up?
Remember me?
Kind of. I can't remember our conversation, but I remember your name and your profile picture.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday or 2 days ago, I think,
About what?
about the Christianity and like why Jesus isn't God and like the Trinity and stuff like that.
Okay, what's up?
So every Sunday, right? Do you eat God?
Every Sunday, do I eat God? What do you mean by that?
Like in the church, they give the what's it called in English? Like the red juice.
Are you the dude who came up and you was like, "Oh, the Trinity's a fallacy"?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So every Sunday, right? Like the church, like gives you like
The body and blood of Christ.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then you eat it.
Yeah, I
Or
can't
do you?
partake in it personally, legally, but
Why?
yeah, I haven't chosen a side yet.
So what do you think about that?
I believe that that's what Christ instituted for the dispensation of our grace. So when Christ goes to be crucified, he says that this is my body, which has been broken for you. Take and eat.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my blood that has been shed, the blood of the new covenant. Take and drink. And then they drunk.
So you eat God and drink Him every Sunday?
I don't know what you mean by that,
Because I don't know,
but
is this like symbolic or like what's actually going on?
yeah,
Because like I hear
so
all the Christians say that.
yeah, so when like Jesus says that his body is like the bread of life, right? So his
And what does
body
that
is
mean?
that, yeah, that means that his body is that which gives life and sustains us. So I mean, you're Muslim, right?
You asked the same question yesterday, bro.
I can't remember. What did you say?
I just said that that's not like not appropriate. How do you say that
I
word?
mean,
Like it doesn't have anything to do with
you might
this.
just be devoid of like the entire Old Testament. So like
So
bread is like very very important, especially within that context. And Jesus is saying that he is the bread of life and he gives his flesh for us in order to sustain us, right? And he gives us his blood to cleanse us and to also sustain us as well, because in the blood there is life, which is what we see in Leviticus. In regards to bread is the way in which God sustains his people when they in the Exodus period, right? So Jesus gives his flesh and his blood to us to sustain us and to save us and to clean us from our sins. So we partake in his body, which is the bread of life, and his blood, which is the wine, right? For the sustaining and the cleansing and the atoning of our sins.
but I don't like think that makes sense.
I don't think that you would,
Why?
because you're like outside of the understanding of the scriptures. Like you don't understand anything about the scriptures really, so I don't see
You
how
don't know
you
that
would.
though.
No, I
That's a
do.
presupposition.
No, it's not. This is my second time talking to you now.
I know, but you forgot who I was, bro.
Nah, I remembered when you was the dude who came up here and said, "Oh, the Trinity is a fallacy," and I asked you to name the fallacy, and you was like, "Fine, it's not a fallacy," and then you moved on, and I like guided you throughout the
Yeah,
entire
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, I told you why it was illogical.
No, you didn't.
I told you what I think why it's illogical.
Yeah, and then I proved that wrong. I was gonna post our conversation, me and your conversation on
We can do
YouTube.
that. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, do that.
Yeah,
We
nah,
can
I
do
am.
that.
It's already like loaded up. Like,
Nice.
don't even trip.
That's good. That's good, man. That's cool. So, okay. So, like, do you want to go back to the Trinity for a second?
Not really. It doesn't seem like
So,
you. It doesn't seem like you want to understand anything.
no, I'm trying to. Okay. So, let's just talk about the blood and the bread thing. So, like, try to dumb it down for a second. Like, what do you mean exactly? Why you have to drink that and you have to eat and, you know, eat God or whatever?
Yeah. So, um, I'm trying to think as to how I would like dumb it down for you. Like because if you're a Muslim, then like I'm trying to say it in terms in which that you would understand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know how I would like break it down to you in your worldview, but pretty much like if God were to take on flesh and then he says to do this in remembrance of him, then you
Mm-hmm.
would do that in plain and simple terms. Then you would do that in remembrance of him. And what God does is he gives us his body and his blood to take and
Ah.
eat.
Okay, so as a remembrance, right?
That's where he says to do this in remembrance of him as often as we can in remembrance of him.
So where does it say that?
And like almost every gospel, but for sure in Matthew.
All right.
You want me to show you?
Yeah, sure.
Body which is broken for you. Okay, we got Luke 22:19. Okay. Um. Okay. So
What
here,
Bible is that?
this is the ESV. Do you have one that you wanna? You
Yeah,
have a
let's just read this.
okay.
Okay.
And when the
And what
hour
should I read
claim,
it?
huh?
Should I read it?
Yeah, go ahead. You start from
So
verse 14.
yeah. And when the hour came, he reclined at table, and the apostates or apostles with him, and he said to them, I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer, for I tell you, I will not eat it. I will not eat it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he said, take this and divide it among yourselves, for I tell you that from now on I will not drink of the fruit and the wine until the kingdom of God comes. And he took bread, and had given thanks. He broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body, which is given for you.
Do this,
Hmm? That do this in the remembrance of me.
and then read this one.
And likewise the cup after they had eaten, saying, this cup that is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood.
Yeah. So you see.
So what do you mean with covenant in my blood?
So he brings in the new covenant.
What, like the book?
The book.
What is a covenant?
A covenant is a relationship. It's like a contract. So like
Ah.
when you're in a marriage, you're in a covenant. So we're in a covenantal like marriage or relationship with God, which is
Mhm.
why God in the Old Testament calls himself a husband. And when we serve other gods, it's called adultery, right? You're breaking this covenant with God. one of the reasons as to why the covenant was solidified with salt in the Old Testament as well, because salt isn't supposed to lose its saltiness, so it's supposed to be an everlasting relationship or covenant. So Jesus is bringing in this new covenant in his blood.
Mm-hmm.
So he gives us the Eucharist, or his body and his blood, which he offers up on Calvary. We're able to partake in that through the bread and the wine which he gives to us.
So you have to do this.
Yeah.
And what happens if you don't do it?
Then you're like cutting yourself off from his grace.
Are you a Christian if you don't like go to the church?
Are you a Christian?
Yeah. If you never go to the church, are you a Christian if you don't go to the church?
You can still be Christian, but you're not supposed to forsake the union or the community. So you can still, like, there's people who are unable to go to church, right?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Some people are.
they're still Christian. You can make a statement like they're not Christian because they're unable to go to church.
And in the Bible, right? You're not allowed to be gay, right? Or like a homosexual or a lesbian or a transgender.
Are you just trying to use every single word to get me cut off?
No. I'm asking you, is it true that you like is like against
It's
that?
a sin, yeah.
Yeah, but there's also commands though in Leviticus, like if you lie with another man, you know.
Yeah.
So why don't you guys rule by that?
Yeah, so like the Old Testament and the New Testament, they differ a lot. So the Old Testament is when people like the Israelites, they have this position where they're supposed to spread their law like to all the Israelites, and then when other nations see how the Israelites live, they should want to conform to the goodness that they see that the Israelites live by. Right? In regards to Christianity, the law is written on our hearts. So we're not like put in government positions of authority to now like make these rulings and things like that. That's not the goal of Christianity. But it's that through our mercy, our love, our patience, our kindness, that law of God that's written on our heart is supposed to be shown to everybody, and people should prayerfully become Christian through the goodness of God that shines through us. So it's not
The
about
goodness of God.
it's not about being in a position of authority or power.
Yeah, but like, so in the same like the story, you know, I'm like referring to Leviticus. Like something, it said something about like now go and attack the Amalekites and like destroy them and kill the donkeys, the infants, kill all of them, and don't spare them. So why did God command that? And what did the infants and the donkeys do?
Yeah, so there's a literary device that is used back then called hyperbole, specifically hyperbolic war language. So when talking about war, people during that time would often over exaggerate. So what that just means is just to go and have a commanding victory. God's not actually telling them to go and unalive babies.
So why does it say that then? If you know that like
Because
people
it's
keep
like
that misunderstood.
it's like it sounds like you guys play, football, like
Yeah,
what you kick with your feet and stuff,
yeah.
right? So if you guys are playing and you're like, hey, go out there and kill him, leave no man standing. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're not talking about going out there and actually unaliving somebody, but
Mhm.
you're using hyperbole or you're over exaggerating to say have a commanding victory. That's what's
So how do you
happening.
know that? But how do you know that?
Because when we look at archaeology, at this time period, when people were talking about war, they use the exact same language. Like even in talking about Israel outside of the Bible, it says Israel. They say Israel is no more. It's laid waste, completely destroyed. Obviously, that's not all the way true. They say things about all different types of nations where they over exaggerate to show that they had a commanding victory.
At that time, 2,000 years ago, or how long it was, then everyone was just using hyperbolic language, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. When talking about war, they're using a lot of hyperbole.
So how do you know the whole Torah or whatever how do you know the whole Torah is not hyperbolic?
Well, we can like look at it through archaeology, so we could see in which like some nations are destroyed, or it's written in history. We could see the way in which these things played out. But even in the New Testament, like you're bringing up Old Testament, you're bringing up 1 Samuel 15. The Amalekites aren't completely destroyed. They don't go in there and unalive every single person, which is why they show up later in the book of 1 Samuel. That's not the goal. The goal is for the Amalekites as a nation to be wiped out, like their power, which is why it's a problem when the king isn't unalived. But it's not, oh, there's a baby in there, you need to go in there and unalive him. No, it's about destroying the power that they have.
So you're saying like the Christians at that time didn't behead all the babies and the donkeys?
No, and there's no verse in there that says that a baby was even unalived. There's no verse that says that. You must be asking ChatGPT.
No, I'm searching it up real quick.
I'm glad you got your PC working. It wasn't working last time when I was asking for that fallacy that the Trinity is.
No, because my PC wasn't even opened. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. So it says, this is the most controversial verse in the Bible, blah, blah, blah. Some modern Christian and Jewish scholars argue that this kind of language, kill every man, woman, child, was ancient war rhetoric, or not necessarily literal, but meant to emphasize total victory. Did it actually happen? If we take the Bible literally, then yes, Saul was commanded by God through Samuel, who completely wiped out the Amalekites, including children and animals. But Saul disobeyed by sparing King Agag and some animals, and that's why God rejected Saul as king. You agree?
Yeah, so he doesn't wipe out the power, right? In defeating the king, he doesn't do that. So God rejects him because that's not the first time that he disobeys God. He like continuously just disobeys God for his own reasons, primarily power or provision. He doesn't trust in God, so that's why he rejects God. It's not because of what he didn't. It's not directly
And
just because of what he didn't do.
he was in the book, but he like rejected God and shit.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, so he rejects God. So it's a long history, but if you read the book of 1 Samuel, Samuel was the prophet of God and he was a judge. So when the Israelites want to be like the other nations around them, they're like, hey, Samuel, we want a king. We want a king like the other nations. And now Samuel is distraught and he's like, hey, bro, like he feels like they rejected him, but God says, no, they didn't reject you. They rejected me. So fine, I'll give them a king, and he gives them what they're desiring, which Saul is a king who's taller than everybody. He looks like a king. He got like that kingly look. He's handsome, he's right? He got that kingly look, but he's not necessarily righteous. So when Saul is going into other nations, God is trying to teach him like, hey, even though you're the king, I need you to rely on me because you're going to be leading these people. So when you go in there, don't take any animals for yourself. Wait for the priest to offer a sacrifice unto me. Don't just go and just, disobey rules. So one of the first things that Saul does is that he's trying to go into battle to conquer this land. And he's like, Samuel's taking too long. Now you're not supposed to offer a sacrifice without the priest there. And he's like, Samuel's taking too long. Let's just go and do the sacrifice without the priest. So he directly disobeys God's command in order to get what he wants, pretty much. That was like, hey, bro, like that's a no-go. And then this, he tells him, hey, go and have a commanding victory, and he leaves the king alive and animals to keep for himself, right? He's trying to provide for himself, not really rely on God. So God rejects him, which then he anoints this king who you might know, his name is David. And David is just not a little boy, but he's a young man at the time, who would sometimes tend to the king because the spirit of God ended up leaving Saul, and Saul ended up getting hit by evil spirits. If
You
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 want,
mean the Holy
sure,
Ghost?
sure. Yeah, so he ends up leaving Saul, like he's no longer, he's not really protected, and Saul gets tormented by evil spirits. So David will calm Saul down. David gets anointed. Saul wants to end up unaliving David. David refused to unalive Saul. He ends up running. Saul dies. David becomes king.
Okay, but that's interesting. You say the king part because I don't know Isaiah, right? You know Isaiah? He was also a king, right?
Isaiah?
Yeah, yeah.
Nah.
Wasn't that his name?
Mm-mm.
There was
Isaiah was a
some
king.
like some king. His granddaughter was named Umri. You know him,
Mm-mm.
and it basically it's like a mathematical contradiction, basically.
You talking about the 22 thing?
Yeah, the 20. So he was 22 years and 42 years at the same time.
Yeah, his name is Ahaziah or Ahaziah.
Okay.
And yeah, that's just a scribal error. So like if I go to that verse in my Bible, it's just gonna say whatever the correct age is.
So there's an error in the Bible.
Nah, I didn't. Here, do you want to pull up the verse? I could just show you.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the verse?
It's two. Let me find them. Well, I believe one of them was in Chronicles. The other one, let me find it.
And then after this, I'm gonna have to drop you, and I gotta move on.
All right. So go to 2 Kings 8:26.
hmm And then what's the other one?
The other one is 2 Chronicles 22:2, and put them like next to each other so we can see both of them.
Okay. Oh shit. All right. What's the deal? No man, I'm on TikTok live right now.
He's talking to a knowledgeable scholar.
I love you. I'm sorry. All right. So here, um, this is
Yeah, yeah.
Second Kings.
Same
Two.
Bible, by the way.
Yeah, it's Second Kings 2:26. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he began to reign. Second Chronicles 22:2. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he began to reign.
Yeah, but that's after the update.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's in one of the manuscripts is a textual variant.
Yeah.
So when we look at all the manuscripts, we're able to see what it actually says. So the things that the manuscripts that the King James version had, we found
Mm-hmm.
manuscripts after that date before what the King James had. So we're
So go
able to
to
see
ESV.
this is ESV.
Which one?
This
The King?
this is the English Standard Version.
Go to Chronicles. So Chronicles 22:2 should be KJV.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah?
What did I say?
Yeah, you said that it's already ECV.
No. So we found earlier manuscripts than what the King James Version had when they first translated their Bible. We have earlier manuscripts and more manuscripts than they had back then. So we can look at all the manuscripts even earlier, and we can see that it says 22 years old. The correct age is 22.
My Bible is saying something different than yours.
I'm gonna move on. I don't think you're understanding. Do you
I
understand how the
understand you.
Bible comes together?
Of course I do.
How do you think
Of
the
course I
Bible comes
understand.
together, bro? Never mind. I'm not gonna. That's all right.
I can. It's I can.
What's going on, man?
What's up?
You got the patience of a saint. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Thank you.
So, I'm not Christian because I was actually raised Christian, but I chose to become Buddhist. I've been Buddhist for about 13 years now.
Okay. So do you believe in a God or no?
Um, Traditionally, I don't. Other Buddhists, they do believe in gods. I
Yeah.
just prefer not to. Um, but yeah, I mean, but I still recognize Jesus as a teacher, but not as the Son of God, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's good evidence that a God exists. Um, and I think that God exists, that God is one. I think that God is Christ, and I think that we could show that through like historical evidence as well. And if Christ is God, then I'd say like, I mean, you could live the way like you want to live as a Buddhist in regards to like being nice to one another, but Christianity would be true.
So let me ask you this from a different kind of point of view. God also could also translate to just what the universe is, right? Because when we look at energy and how it is, right? I mean, we can disagree about it or not,
No,
but
I'm
or we
saying
can
just
look at it.
like through the logical argumentation that we could go to prove that God exists. By definition, it wouldn't be the universe.
Why?
Because like, so say for instance, if we use the argument from motion, which is a logical argument that just goes to show that when we see that change exists in this universe, we can go to conclude that God exists. If you want, we could run through that argument. But whatever this being is, it doesn't change. The universe constantly changes. Therefore, the universe wouldn't be that God.
Mm, no, I don't see. That just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, though, because if you really look at it from the whole grand scheme of things, first of all, Christianity wasn't even a thing until 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that has
Well,
nothing to do with the argument that I put
well,
forth. So
well. You gotta let me finish what I'm trying to say, though.
okay.
Okay. Um, and when you also have to look at it from another point of view, monotheism wasn't even a thing, but before that time. Okay, we had polytheism way before there was monotheism. I mean, we had the Hindus who were polytheistic, so there might be more evidence that there's more deities, but I
What
just
does
don't
that?
believe in
I
evidence
don't
that there's
understand
more
what
than
that has to.
God.
Yeah. So you understand that? Oh, before there was the like the idea of the globe and a circular world, there was the idea that the world was flat. Since that came before, we should just run with that. Or if the evidence goes to show that the world is actually a circle, then we should run it with that. I'm saying that the evidence
So,
shows that there isn't multiple gods. There's one God, and this God is not the universe.
what evidence do you have that God exists then? And you can't say the Bible.
I wouldn't say the Bible.
I know, but a lot of people do, and you're an intelligent person, and I genuinely want to hear it from an intelligent person like you, though.
Yeah, I like the argument from motion.
Okay, so what
So
about the motion?
yeah, so by motion, what we mean is change. Like, so pretty much change exists. By change, we mean the actualization of potential. So this is saying that when we're talking about what change is, we're saying that things go from what they could be to what they actually are. So what they could be is potential. What they actually are is actuality or actualization. So things move from potential to actual. That's change. That's motion. So
And
it starts off with saying that change exists.
so change. I think I'm still trying to understand, and I might need to do more research on that if I'm going to be more honest, so I can probably have more of an intelligent conversation about it.
Mhm.
Because I've never heard how people correlate motion to God.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I could run through the argument right now, but I want
if
you
you have
to,
the time, yeah.
yeah, I want you to understand what we mean by change, because then once you understand that, then you'll understand how everything just follows.
I got
So
you.
when I say that change means things go from potential to actual. So for example, a pot of cold water has the potential to be hot, right? And then change is when it goes from potentially being hot to actually being hot. That's what change is. The
Okay.
seed has the potential to become an oak tree. That's different. Or when that potential is actualized, that's change. When it goes from a seed to an oak tree, that's change, right? Um, this mic has the potential to sit, above the ground. That's, being actualized by my desk and stuff like that. That's what we mean by change.
Yeah. Okay. So that part makes sense. So how do we correlate that to what
To
what
God.
God?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So change exists, right? And by change, we mean the actualization of potential. But potential can't actualize itself. Only something already actual can bring it to actuality. Therefore, whatever changes is actualized by something else. So,
Okay.
for
So
example,
God is that change.
No. So for example,
Oh.
like a pot of hot water, right?
Mhm.
I mean, a pot of cold water is not gonna make itself hot, right? But something that's already hot needs to move it, pretty much,
Right.
right? Like a stove, fire, whatever. Something that's already actually hot has to be there. That's already actual in order to actualize that potential. So whatever changes is changed by something else. This leads to a chain of actualizers that each depend on something else to cause its change right now. This chain can't go on forever. It can't be infinite. Therefore, it must be finite, right? Which means that it terminates in a first. This first actualizer is what we mean by God, because this first actualizer is a being of pure actuality, or it cannot be changed pretty much. This first actualizer has to exist. If we're saying that change exists, therefore God exists.
Okay. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, you're not gonna. So
Yeah.
let me break down the second part. So we're
Okay.
saying that everything that changes is changed by something else, right? Now this leads to a chain of actualizers, right?
hmm
Now this chain of actualizers that depends on the thing higher to it right now can't go on forever. Why do we say that? Think of it like you plug your phone into an extension cord that's not plugged into the wall. Will your phone ever be charged?
Correct.
Not like your phone will never be charged if you plug your phone into an extension cord that's never plugged into a wall, right?
Right.
Right.
It
Yeah,
will not be charged. So you have to plug it into the actual outlet.
exactly. So even if that extension cord, like I plug it into another extension cord and another extension cord and another extension cord, it will never be charged unless you get to an actual power source that gives actuality to everything else. So pretty much we're saying we have this long line of extension cords, yet we see that the phone is charged. If I see that the phone is charged, I can logically conclude that there must be something that's not like the extension cords where they derive their power, but actually give their power in order.
Okay. Yep. Okay. That makes. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing with that. Okay. And
Mhm.
obviously, so first of all, I always respect everybody's beliefs. Okay.
Mhm.
And I'm not here to argue. I'm just here to share. Okay. One of the things that I had concluded for myself was that, part of enlightenment is discovering who the self is.
Mhm.
Okay. And within the self, you have the light, well, or the spirit, or the soul. And but then you have the ability to keep moving forward in that way. So I just could conclude that you don't really need the middleman or God to be able to do that per se. And that's just how it was, and I found more peace in that way, because for me it was the conformity of the religion in itself.
Mhm.
Okay, because when we look at morals, like if we talk about maybe unaliving, for example, right? If someone in general tries to unalive anybody, they're always going to, most of the time, if they're not a psychopath or sociopath, they're going to have a sense of guilt, like maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Mhm.
Okay, that's natural. Okay, and it's still in the Bible as one of the 10 Commandments, which I've read. And but people always argue that morality stems from religion, which it really doesn't, because it just can't, because you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I mean, so in regards to the argument put forth, though, we're just saying that okay, we can logically conclude that this first actualizer exists, and this first actualizer is what we mean by God. Therefore, God exists, and then we can go to figure out the attributes of this actualizer, which we would see that it just lines up with classical theism, like one God, all powerful, stuff like that.
See, so the type of Buddhist that I am is I'm a Theravada Buddhist, and so we're more agnostic to the idea of what God is. So it's not that we don't believe in a God; it's just that we don't believe in the Abrahamic God. Like there's maybe the possibility that there is something out there we just don't know what it is. That's
Yeah.
what
So I'm
you know.
saying that we can. So yeah, and what Christianity says is that you can reason to the existence of God. So this argument was like first made by Aristotle,
Mhm.
right? Like this is a very, very, very old argument. Um, so you can reason to the existence of God. So you don't have to be unsure as to whether or not God exists. We can know for sure that God exists just by reasoning. Now, in regards to like who this God is, now for Christianity, we would get into history to figure out as to who this God is. So for Christianity, it's going to be all based on whether or not Jesus Christ actually rose from the dead. If Jesus rose from the dead, then Christianity is true. If Jesus Christ did not rise from the dead, then Christianity is false. I think that there's good enough evidence to go to prove that Jesus did rise from the dead. Therefore, Christianity would be true. If Christianity is true, then every other religion is false.
What was the evidence of Jesus rising from the dead again?
Yeah, so there's a good argument called the minimal facts argument, which pretty much just goes off of whatever atheists would accept, right? Whatever skeptical scholars or whatever would accept about Jesus, and then we build a argument based off of the minimal facts. So those minimal facts are Jesus Christ died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. This is one of
That's
the
a
most.
fact.
You
Yes.
said what?
I said yes. So that is a fact. Yes.
Yeah. His disciples firmly believed to see him risen from the dead. His enemies firmly believed to have seen him risen from the dead, and the tomb is empty. Now, I'd say that the best thing that accounts for all of those things is the resurrection. I think any other theory falls short of actually explaining what happens.
See, and with that kind of stuff, I can't say whether it's true or not. Okay. And, I think at the end of the day, that's just where belief comes in, and that's just where you and I are going to differ. I still believe that Jesus was still a man who even probably, and there's also reason to suspect that he and Buddha himself even that they even met each other in that 40 days and 40 nights that he even went on his little gallivant. So, but when it comes to just like, if it's just by set of mouth or word of mouth, by other people, even though it's documented, there's still that percent where it's like, well, what if?
No,
You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, but so pretty much what you have to figure out is how do you know that anything is historical, right? How do you know the things that you know about Prince Siddhartha?
Mhm.
Oh, it's going to be through the attestation of the people who are with him, right?
Well, and also he had his own. He had someone scribe his own his own journal. There's a whole book that is pretty much written by him about him.
Yeah, and that's fine. Right, he was a prince, right? That leaves his riches behind in
Mhm.
order to obtain enlightenment. That's cool. So in regards to things that are historical, right? You're going to go to how do you know that anything is historical? So the things that I'm saying
Mhm.
is they're all historical. His disciples firmly believe to have seen him risen. Well, how do we know this? Because not only do they write about it, but they die for it. Right? They get beheaded, filleted, crucified, pulled apart, and they do not recant to Jesus rising from the dead. They don't deny that. The same with his enemies, and the tomb is empty. So pretty much we're trying to answer the question. Okay, we do know that he died. Cool. Why do his disciples believe to see him risen from the dead, so much to the point that they're willing to die for it, and the same for his enemies, and why is the tomb empty? Now,
So
I need to account for all of those facts, right? I know that he's dead. I know that people claim to believe to see him risen from the dead, and they believe it so much that they die for it. The same for his enemies out of their own testimony, and the tomb is empty. What best accounts for all of those facts? And I would say the resurrection.
So the symbology of all that, though, can also have a whole different meaning that even is supposed to bring up a lot of lightness towards someone who is suffering from moving away from Christ. If we think about it, people who die for their for him and their beliefs, it's a test of faith, and it's to show that they just
we're actually talking about historical claims now. Like we're not just talking about how people feel or just what they believe. We're asking the question as to why, what leads them to this, what best accounts for these facts. So we're not just talking about what these things signify or what's the simple, but we're giving an explanation to the historical evidence that we have.
Are there any other books other than the Bible where it is claimed, not any other religious text, are there any other books by any of the Roman emperors, anything like that, that can confirm that Jesus rose from the dead.
Yeah, so you have people like Tacitus, Flavius Josephus. Um, so I actually have his book up. Um, and I'll pull this up real quick. Uh,
Was he a philosopher?
Flavius Josephus he's a historian. He was a Jewish historian, so
Okay.
he didn't believe in Christ. Um,
And was
so
this during the same time period that this all happened?
yeah, so Flavius Josephus is at like the end of the first century, and then second century, but he has direct connections to people who literally condemned Christ to death.
But are these the same people that also saw him rise as well?
So what he's doing is he's just giving an account for the beliefs of the Christians, right?
So, and again, I'm not trying to argue. It's just I'm looking for a direct person to confirm who is from a historical background
Mhm.
that has seen it other than the Bible. You know what I mean? And that's where it gets tricky.
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean?
So all these people, all the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and everybody, right? They all see Jesus rise again from the dead, right?
Hmm.
And you had also claimed that his enemies did, like Pontius Pilate, some of the Roman emperors and stuff like that, right? So Pontius Pilate himself would have also had anything that was written down, or any other Roman emperors would have also written down this miraculous thing. Like, this is a true huge thing that if somebody did rise from the dead, it wouldn't just be from the Bible. It would be documented in other scrolls, maybe like the Dead Sea Scrolls, or it'd be documented in other texts. You know what I mean? Because that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it's a big deal. So this is why, like, you can see you can see the things that people say outside of the Bible, and what you're doing is it would be a little fallacious. It's called a genetic fallacy, where you're pretty much throwing something out based off of the people who wrote it, right? So that's not the way
No,
in
I'm
which
not
we would
trying
know.
to.
Yeah, but
I'm
that's
not trying
not
to
the way in which we
disrespect.
would know as to whether or not something is historical.
Yeah.
A thing that would really help make something historical and we can know that it's a fact is by multiple individual attestation, especially if you could get eyewitnesses. So most of the people who are eyewitnesses that write, you get their letters compiled in the Bible. But you have people like Josephus, for example, who's giving a historical account to this figure Jesus, and he says pretty much that, oh, there are these people who believe these things that claim to see him risen from the dead. Like, he literally just says that. So this isn't like, what it goes to show is that this isn't a belief that grows over time, pretty much, that people didn't hold to. No.
I mean, it kind of is, though, because they convinced a bunch of other people, because the Romans were pagan before the Christians even came along.
Yeah,
And
but do you know why Constantine ends up converting?
I actually watched the documentary, but I can't remember specifically why.
Yeah, like Constantine has his own kind of encounter with Christ. So then he ends up converting. But Christians were persecuted for 300 years. And then Constantine has an encounter with Christ, like in a dream. And he goes into battle. He has all his Romans put a cross on their shield. And then they win that battle. And then he like kind of grows a little bit more in his faith. And then he converts to Christianity. And he declares Christianity legal, saying that, okay, we don't need to kill these people anymore, because for 300 years they were being unalived, right? So if you have people pre 300s that are saying, hey, I saw Jesus rise from the dead and I'm dying for it, like that's another evidence for Christianity, is the explosion of Christianity, how fast it spread. And it's because this was a historical event. People actually saw him afterwards and then went home and said what happened.
See,
So
and I guess actually, you finish. Sorry about that.
my fault. Yeah, so what you see in regards to like the Jewish or Roman response to the resurrection is not, oh, he ain't rise from the dead. right? Oh, here's his body right here. But they start to accuse and try to figure out reasons as to why his body is not there. That's the immediate response from the Jewish and Romans.
I mean, naturally, they probably thought someone stole him to martyr him. Yeah, no. But, like, I mean, I guess to answer your question, that's probably why I'm not a Christian, is because, I don't have, and it's also from discernment, like my beliefs moved me to go somewhere else. Your beliefs keep you to where you're at. But still, it was a good talk, and I appreciate you, me having coming up.
All right, for sure, man. God bless you, brother.
Yeah, you too, man. You have a good one.
You too. All right, that's an hour 30. God bless you guys in the name of the Father, the Son, and the blessed Holy Spirit. I pray that all of you guys are well. Shout out to Zay. I see you in here. I never really see you in here. God bless you, brother. Appreciate y'all. And I'm sorry for anybody in a request. I was only supposed to be live for an hour 15. I went an hour 30. God bless y'all. I'm sorry, man. YouTube, I pray that was a cool live, quick little live. I appreciate all of you. And God bless all of you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the blessed Holy Spirit.